Hey, good morning. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm your host, Nick Brown. I'm an attorney at Bernheim Kelly, and I've got real estate mogul, uh, teacher, and my dear friend, Jennings Smith here with me today. How you doing, Jennings?
Hey, what's up, Nick? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. The
Yeah,
inaugural show, right?
that's the first one. I appreciate your time. I wanted you to be the first one. You know, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been trying to get me to do it. I see the value. I understand the value. Um, it's just been a block for me. And so I have to say your consistency over the years is definitely, definitely something to speak for. And I appreciate it. And so that was one of the reasons I wanted you to be, my first guest.
Awesome, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. So let's talk about where you got started, where you're from.
So I live down in Somerville, which is outside of Charleston, South Carolina. And yeah, just been in construction, started in construction my whole life. And then kind of got a wake-up call with 2006, 7, 8, and realized, wow, this business is very cyclical. I found myself owing the IRS money. My company was losing $50,000. I had gone from making money to just scraping by. I was living in a rental home. I was trying to build and renovate my dream home, and that was going over budget. Uh, and it just kind of shook me. Like, you need to have something besides just this active income and of construction. And so that's where I just started to think about real estate. I wasn't able to do it, right, because I was broke. But yeah, I ended up digging my way out of that hole and got a couple of trailers. Started with some single wides, double wides, rented them out, sold them owner financed, and then moved into single family homes. And then realized this is going to take forever to really make any significant money doing that. But it was working, right? I was generating net worth with the real estate. But that's what got me looking into apartments and multifamily, which is how we kind of connected.
All right. There's a lot in there, huh? I mean, you're talking about a span of how many years just now?
Yeah, that was probably, I think 2009, 10 was probably the bottom for me anyways. The recession kind of came a little later in South Charleston was insulated. Um, and then I bought my first rental, I think in 2014, maybe. So yeah, span of 7, 8 years.
Gotcha. So I want to break it down a little bit. Where'd you go to high school?
High school, I was homeschooled for a while, and I went out to a military academy in Texas, and they had a construction focused program. So my dad kind of leaned me towards that. Like, he's like, "You're good with your hands. You know how to put stuff together." He encouraged me, and it was great. I mean, I knew that I could make six figures as a contractor, but not an extremely scalable business.
I gotcha, but I mean, you didn't know that right away, I'm assuming.
I definitely not. Definitely not.
So,
I
so
mean,
how
at
old were
that,
you when you went to the military academy in Texas?
I think I was 17, and I was there for about a year and a half.
So, what's the process for when you're homeschooled? Did you get a GED?
Yeah, we got a
Oh,
GED, and then
okay,
there's also like this was in the 90s, and there was a association that gave you a high school diploma for whatever it's worth. But my mom wanted me to have the GED just so that I had all my bases covered. So
gotcha. And so you're 17, and you sound like you graduated early.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay,
And then I went
so
to that vocational program.
and then how long was the vocational program?
So initially there was like an 8 week basic training to gain entry into the school. So it was kind of themed out. The guy that ran it was a former Marine. So he pretty much structured it like a Marine boot camp. And if you made it through that process, then you could go into the second phase, which was about 6 months. And everyone did the same thing. And you just learned like pretty cool stuff. I mean, like search and rescue trainings, scuba diving, how to use a chainsaw, different, I guess, like the school was like a search and rescue. They would respond to natural disasters. So they kind of trained you in the basics of that, how to find missing persons, just random stuff. And then once you got through that part, you could specialize. And so they had like a automotive, like you could learn how to be a mechanic. They had a flight school, so you could get your private pilot's license. They had avionics and power plants, like you could learn how to build airplanes. They had a construction school, which is what I did. And so it was a kind of somewhat a college alternative. But I did it, and I kind of came home and immediately started working on getting my builder's license. I started working for a construction company, but all my friends and everybody my age was in college, and I kind of was like, man, I don't know that I'm ready to work 50, 60 hours a week for the rest of my life. I think I want to try to go to school. And so that's when I applied to Clemson, and I got denied, or I got waitlisted. But they came back, a few months later and said, "Hey, we got a spot for you." And it was kind of a miracle because all I had was a GED, and I had taken the SAT. I'd done decently well on the SAT, so they looked at that, and yeah, they let me in.
And so how long was so you get the 8-week initial, sort of sounds like a boot camp, and it sounds awesome. Like it sounds like something every kid
It was good
in the country should do. But 8 weeks, and then you pick your specialty. How is the specialty? What, a year?
Yeah, the specialty was about a year, depending on, the flight school and the avionics and power plants was a little longer because it just took longer time to get through that stuff. But the construction program was about a year. Yeah.
And so this is 2000, what, 3, 4 a time frame? When did you enroll?
Yeah. This was, no, it was like 2000, 2001. Yeah. So I went to Clemson in 2002 and graduated in 2006.
Gotcha. Okay. Graduated at the perfect time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you come out of Clemson, you've got this, I'm assuming some sort of certificate or license from the school. Then you've also got your builder's license in South Carolina. You've got a 4-year undergraduate degree, and you go right into building. Is that right?
I actually, I worked for a year before I went to college. So by the time I got there, I was, I think, 19, and I turned 20 my freshman year. So I was kind of an older college kid, but I started building during the summers off. So I had already gotten my license, and my dad had bought this defunct neighborhood. There was like 20 lots left, and they had gone under. This was before the crash. They had gone under 10 years ago, and he bought it from the bank. And so he would clear a lot, and I would and work on getting the permits and all. And then I'd come in, we'd pour the foundation, frame it, and we'd build a house in like 90 days. And it was, some of them he kept as a rental, some of them we flipped and just sold. The first one we kept as a rental, and he paid me, I think, $15 an hour. And at the end of the summer, he gave me a check for 7,000 or 8,000, which then he promptly took back and gave to Clemson University because I had to pay for half my school. And but the next summer, we built the same house. And so now I'm, 20, almost 21 years old, built the same house and sold it. Right. So now you're talking, this is 2003 or 4, and the market's hot. And we made like, I think $60,000. So I made my hourly rate. He made 30,000 off the land, and then he paid me 30,000. So then he took back, I don't know, $10,000 for my part of the tuition. But I literally went to Clemson as a sophomore, about to turn 21, with $20,000 in the bank. And by December, it was all gone. I just blew right through it all.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Going out. I was drinks on me. I was living my best life.
Another round.
Yeah.
Wow. You're 21, man. That's I had nowhere near $21,000 in the bank account at 21. I think I joined the Coast Guard right on my 21st birthday, and it's kind of funny. I actually turned 21 in boot camp. And,
oh wow.
I was in junior year of college. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and so I knew I've lived up my life a lot by figuring out what I don't want, and it's cut me out of some trouble. But I knew that there was really a lot of upside to join the military. You know, they would pay for your education. They would, you get to travel. I knew I wanted to serve. I had that in me, but there was a one open spot for the boot camp starting in October of 2007. And he's like, look, you can jump on it and go now, or you're going to have to wait till the following March. And a 21-year-old, like 20-year-old, 6 months is an eternity. And so for my 21st birthday, all my friends, we were going to Vegas to celebrate my 21st birthday, and brooms booked, everything. And I bailed on the party and joined the Coast Guard. All my friends went to celebrate my birthday without me. And before I went, they give you in boot camp, an address where people can send you mail, and mostly for your parents and stuff. But I got beat up so bad by instructors because a good friend of mine sent me letters, sent me a piece of mail to boot camp with all the hooker flyers from Vegas. I did. And of course, my instructor's like ripping it up, throwing it everywhere, and where are you? And so that was how I spent my 21st birthday. But interesting time. But so you roll in, and then you talked about a little bit earlier where you go into construction, and that sort of shifted into multifamily, and so let's talk about where you are right now.
Yeah, so right now, we've got a portfolio mostly in South Carolina, Georgia, and you know this because you're part of it. But Indiana, Ohio, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Illinois. It's comprised of about 12 different properties, about 1,000 apartment units, and then 500 self-storage units across 2 properties. And we have a education company, which came out of our Facebook group. So we got a Facebook group, My First Million in Multifamily, that's got about, 26,000 people in it. And then there's a mentoring group for people that want to transition, right? They've got some rental homes. They want to do bigger deals. They wanted to move into commercial real estate, and we show them the path. We connect them to people that can help them get loans, help them get the money, partnerships. How do you find deals? How do you analyze this stuff? How do you underwrite it? And because it's really not harder, it's just a little bit more intimidating because it's bigger numbers and bigger deals and bigger risk to some degree because you've got bigger debt. But yeah, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I would say the mentoring programs they kind of, depending on where what you've heard about them, they can have a bad rep. It's like a guru type, but I feel like your position is so perfect because most of these groups are like $25,000 to $100,000 a year to join.
Right.
And this case, you're providing this value for very, very fractional amount, which I know when I was starting out, back after I got the Coast Guard, 2011, 2012, I was looking for something like this, and it certainly didn't exist. And so I feel like you're in a really, really good spot with, you're able to scale it, but also, that beginner or the folks trying to looking out for something, education tool, but maybe they don't have 25 grand to pop per year to dish out. It's a nice product. And so,
I like to think about, I have a heart for people like me. Like when I was a contractor, the first thing I did was buy Michael Blanc's course on apartments. And I actually didn't buy it because it was $1,000 and that was so much money, but he would sell you just the analyzer, I think for $200. And so I bought just the analyzer, and that was a pretty good tool. And then he upsold me and said, hey, if you buy the rest of the course within 48 hours, I'll apply the analyzer to the course. So it was only another $800. But I think about that. And if my option had been, 20 grand, 40 grand, 100 grand, it's like, I never would have done it. I would just been completely dismissed it. And there's a lot of people out there, they've got the drive, they've got the ability to do this, and they're willing to invest some money. Like it needs to cost you something. You got to pay attention to it. But I don't think it has to cost, $40,000-$50,000 to learn this stuff.
Yeah. Well, so, and this all grew out of your your learning curve, your pain, your growth is sort of the foundation of this and your path. And so, when did you really start getting into multifamily? When did you buy your first one? And then when would you say that your flywheel got going?
So I bought that course and I got excited and I started, watching the videos and looking on LoopNet and everything like everybody does. And after a while, if you don't get traction, it's hard to stay motivated and you're a bit of an island, right? So after 6 months, I kind of fell off, but I kept coming back to it. I knew I wanted to do
What
it.
year was that?
That was 2017, 16, 17.
Okay. Okay. So 2017, you start out. 2023, you've got this massive portfolio. What would you say? How has your mind shift changed? How has it evolved? If you look at yourself and you could have a conversation with yourself in 2017, because you've really had the benefit. Well, I'll get there in a second, but you've had the benefit of a pretty good cycle, right? And so how has it changed?
Yeah. I think if I could go back and talk to myself, I would definitely say, one, you got to work on your connections. You got to work on the people that that you're networking with, that you're meeting. I was an island, right? I'd built my company from scratch. I didn't have any partners. Not that I didn't have help or support, but I just hadn't really recognized the power of having other having other people help you get where you want to go. That you don't have to know everything. You don't have to have all the resources yourself to achieve big things. And in fact, if you want to achieve big things, you're going to need help. No one gets there alone. And so that's the one thing I would have told myself. And then the second thing, I was very worried about the mechanics of it. Like, I can't get this loan. I don't have the down payment money. I don't have the ability to run it. Like, I don't know enough to not get myself in trouble. And so that kind of paralyzed me, and for 2 years, I really didn't do much other than try to study and learn how to do this stuff. So the breakthrough happened. I finally got back online and I found a 12-unit deal for $250,000, or I think they were asking $275, and it was 12 units. And I was like, this got to be a deal. Like that's such a good price. This has got to be a deal. And it's probably really, really messed up, but let me call this guy. So I called him and they set up a meeting. I went and walked the property, and it actually looked really nice. Like it was a lot of older people. It was in a small market in North Carolina, but it had potential and it cash flowed and it was a good deal. And looking back, I mean, it was a home run deal, but at the time I was like, okay, this is probably a good deal, but I'm still not going to be able to get this loan. And the guy's financials were in trouble. He was losing money on it because he was very wealthy dude. He had a lot of property and he wasn't paying attention to this. Manager wasn't paying attention to it, and it just wasn't making money. So I went to him and said, hey, this is not going to qualify for a loan. Now, he didn't know that I couldn't qualify for a loan, but I said, hey, your property doesn't qualify for a loan. Will you owner finance me? And he agreed to hold 70% if I brought a 30% down payment. And so that now I had a deal. I had the loan. This guy's going to give me the loan. I just had to find the money. And I went out to a couple people. A couple people said no. They weren't interested. But I finally did locate a investor that was willing to give me $90,000. So 75 grand for the down payment and like another 15 grand for closing costs and whatever. So I bought the deal, and it was a good deal. We had to implement a water bill back system. We raised rents a little bit. We cleaned it up. And then 18 months later, we sold it for $415,000. So we bought it for $250,000. And so I was seeing the power of this, but so that gave me some confidence, but really, what took me to the next level with really big deals was going to that conference and meeting you and Chad, your partner, and seeing how Tim Bratz was doing these bigger deals. And that kind of opened my eyes because I knew everybody wasn't going to own or finance me. I knew I'd have to eventually use debt.
Right. Let me ask you a question. So I want you to think about, the growth that's happened and try to talk about I made this may be a poor question. And so what are the things you think if you're analyzing, you're looking at an opportunity now, how would you compare yourself to looking at a deal now when it comes across your desk versus back in 2017 when a deal comes across your desk? We all look at the same pro forma. Everybody has their own business out there, they know, but there's a lot in between the lines. And the part that I want to talk about is what's in between the lines now
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you couldn't even see before.
Wow. Okay. So couple things, that I'm looking at a lot harder than I was before. Because I think when you're first starting out, you're just looking to make a deal happen. You're willing to, you're scared of the risk, but you're willing to make it happen. No matter how much work it takes or how long it takes, you're going to make this happen. And I think that you do lose some of that, right? As you mature, you lose a little bit of that hunger and drive, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But you also get your teeth kicked in a couple times and you realize, wow, I need to pay more attention to some of these finer details, and you wisen up. So for one, I mean, when I'm looking at deals now, I definitely am looking at the level of work that they're going to be. And so when you take an asset that's older, built in the 60s, 70s, I think something that we didn't realize at the time was how much maintenance and capital expenditures this thing was going to take. And even if you completely rehab this thing, it's still 50 years old, right? It's still 60 years old. It still has old electrical systems, old plumbing systems, old foundation, old siding, old windows, everything. And so just because you redo the flooring and cabinets and counters doesn't mean that thing is going to be a, brand new 2016, pretty nice asset. It's still going to be an old asset. So I'm looking harder at that. I'm also looking at the appreciation. When I started, it was all about the cash flow, and it hits all those reward centers in your brain. Like, I want passive cash flow, and this thing's going to cash flow, and it's going to be safe, and on and on and on. And the more that I've matured in this, I've kind of found that the cash flow it's an important thing. It definitely adds safety, but it's an inconsequential piece of the profit if you do what we've done, right? So our model is, let's go find something with a problem, right? Let's buy it cheap. Let's fix the problem, and then let's cash flow it. And what we're kind of understanding now, and Nick and I have had, we've had conversations about this, and Yaden, and it's like, if you could push that valuation up on fixing the problem, somebody else will buy that property at a premium because now there's not as much risk. Like, he or she can just walk in, collect it. It's 100% full. We've already renovated it. Yeah, there's going to be maintenance, but it's not that bad. And they're not looking for major returns. They're looking for a safe place to park their money. And they got a different, outlook than you do. And so for me, I didn't realize that at the time, that I needed to really buy good assets in good areas. Like, that area was very, very important if appreciation is going to be your biggest driver, right? And so going out and finding the cheapest property with the best cash flow isn't necessarily the best play. Does that answer kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, it sounds like you're looking at equations now that are trading. You're valuing your time a little bit more, and you're also making. It sounds like you'd be willing to. It does answer it. It's trying to summarize this in a way that makes sense, but you're valuing your time more, and you're, I guess, getting a little more realistic about the cash flow, and how do you impart that message to the folks in your mentor group?
I'm trying to make them understand that they're being sold a dream, right? And they've got to understand that the cash flow is great, but you always want to be doing the math. So, for example, property we have together in Lexington, South Carolina, it's worth $3 million, and our loan is $2 million or $1.9 million. It's I would consider that a class B property. It was built, probably in the 80s, 90s. It's got metal roofs, it's got vinyl siding, it's got vinyl windows, it's on a slab. Its maintenance is very minimal. We've got a great manager on it, and it cash flows, roughly $10,000 to $15,000 a month. And we have $1 million in equity. So if you're thinking, okay, 120 to 150,000 or $180,000 in cash flow, plus paying the loan off, plus still riding the appreciation, that's a pretty good cash on equity return, because we only are tying up $1 million. If we sold that, we'd only get $1 million in cash, versus like our Tulsa property. We solved the major problem. It was half empty and needed a ton of repairs. We've got it filled up. We got it refinanced. We got the investors their money back. But we were all in for $8 million. And now the property's worth maybe $14 million is what we're hearing from the broker. And it's only cash flowing on a good month, $15,000 to $20,000 a month. And it's still built in the 60s. It's still going to need more CapEx. We just had to replace all the roofs. And so we're really tying up, $5-6 million in equity to make what, $240,000 a year in cash flow. And the return on that is very low, like 4%.
Right.
And so instead of having this property be a golden calf and like, oh, this is my door count, I have so much property and I'm on all these podcasts bragging about what I own, and people are envisioning in their head what I'm making in passive cash flow and thinking, oh wow, he's got to be just killing it. Well, I want to tell my people the truth. I want to tell them this is the way it really is. And some people manage things better than others, and some properties perform better than others. But you've got to be doing those analysis to say, can I sell this thing, and can I go find another problem and fix it?
Right.
Or
I think that it's really interesting. My growth. I know that I used to think this way because it's what we're sold as kids, right? Is sort of part of the American dream. Is there's a path to do stuff. There's a right way to do stuff, and there's a wrong way to do stuff. And what's the right way to do it? Well, if you want to be in real estate, then the right way to do it would be buy a property, set it up, get it up to speed, fill it up, and then you hold that thing forever. Do that over and over again. And over time, this property is going to be paying you cash flow monthly for the rest of your life. And there's no real incentive to sell it because of all the tax benefits and appreciation. And over time, it's going to be a good deal. It's the same that mindset is the same guy that's working in corporate America, putting money into his 401k, right? He's been sold, hey, show up, contribute 15, 20, 10, 20, 15% of your money into your 401k. And when you're 65, you'll have this golden parachute. Maybe it's a pension as well. Maybe you got Social Security with that. But the point I'm trying to make is that people want a blueprint. People want a plan, and they want it to take them through the end of their life. When our real job, in whether you're in corporate America, whether you're in real estate, is to identify the landscape. And I recently realized that I think we should be looking at this world more like a jungle rather than everything's going to be fine if I just follow this plan, because it may not be. And so my job is to, what's the opportunity right in front of me? Should I pivot? Do I need to pivot? Should I sell now? And look at the landscape more as a 3D, constantly evolving item, rather than, hey, plan's already made. All I got to do is show up and contribute, and I'm going to be fine. Because I don't know that I will be fine if I don't learn to pivot, if I don't keep up with what's going on. In this case, if we're in a position where we think it's the best move to sell, then you sell. But it's more of a mindset. It's more of a philosophy on wealth building and growth that I'm sort of leaning into lately, is treating it more like a jungle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can only kind of teach my mindset and the way that I approach the game. But yeah, if you're trying to do this somewhat actively, then it makes sense to go out there and find the next deal. If you're not, then it makes sense to kind of hold it and let it go. But we took the rent roll from Tulsa from 55,000 a month to 130,000 a month, right? In 2 years. We cannot take the rent roll to 260,000 a month in the next 2 years, right? The next year we can maybe take it to 145, maybe 150. I don't know, but what I'm trying to say is there is no more like massive problem to fix. It's full, it's renovated, it's cash flowing, people are paying, we're at the top of the market rents, and it is what it is. So if I'm going to just sit on my laurels, I've got to be okay with, I'm only going to be able to increase the value of this building by 1 to 2 to 3% per year for the next decade. So if I took that money and I went out and found something else that was at, worth 6 million, and if it was really, really nice, and I could buy it for 2 or 3 million and fix it up, then I'm going to be better served if I'm willing to do the work. It's sort of like private equity. They come in there, they identify a company that they know they can fix a problem, they can scale the revenue, they can do it, they do their thing, and then they sell it. They sell it to the next guy that wants to just cash flow that business and keep it level. And so I see it the same way. So that's just my vision for my portfolio, is I want to keep recycling that cash into better opportunities where there's just more upside.
Right. Yeah. Well, Jennings, man, it's been awesome. We got less than 1 minute left. I've got to upgrade to Zoom Pro. I'm gonna lose you here in like 45 seconds. But to wrap it up, where can people find you if they want to learn more about what's going on with you?
Jennings Smith Jr. My name, JenningsSmithJR.com. You can jump in our Facebook group, give you a bunch of free tools, downloads, deal analyzers, calculators. You can listen to my podcast and connect with me on socials. I try to respond to everybody that reaches out to me.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for your time, buddy. Once again, this is Nick Brown. I'm a trial attorney at Bernheim Kelly. It's a pleasure having you today, Jennings. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Enjoyed it.